100,000 troops offered for a war not yet fought. Uganda's army chief vows to send forces to Israel and even claims he could conquer Tehran in weeks. Bold promises, biblical rhetoric, but no official backing and no plan in motion. In a region already on edge, even words like these can ignite something bigger. A series of extraordinary statements from Muhoozi Kainerugaba has drawn global attention after he offered to deploy 100,000 Ugandan troops to support Israel in a potential war against Iran. Kainerugaba, who serves as Uganda's Chief of Defense Forces and is the son of longtime President Yoweri Museveni, has in recent weeks posted a series of pro-Israel messages on social media.
I'm ready to deploy 100,000 Ugandan soldiers in Israel, under my command, to protect the Holy Land, the land of Jesus Christ our God.
In another post, Kainerugaba said,
No one will touch Israel. Africa will protect her. The Jews are the first children of Africa.
In one of his most striking claims, Kainerugaba suggested that a single brigade of Ugandan troops could capture Tehran within 2 weeks, a statement that has raised eyebrows among military analysts. Quoting the Holy Bible, Kainerugaba said,
I will end with this Bible verse for Iran. You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied.
Uganda's armed forces rank significantly lower in global military strength, making such assertions highly controversial. Yet Kainerugaba has doubled down, framing his offer as a strategic and historical obligation. According to his posts, Uganda's support for Israel would be a form of repayment for past cooperation between the two countries. He has argued that since Israel stood by Uganda in earlier decades, Ugandan forces should now stand ready to defend the Jewish state against Iran and its regional allies. The rhetoric has gone beyond conventional military pledges. Despite the strong language, there appears to be a gap between personal declarations and official state policy. On the same weekend that Kainerugaba claimed he was traveling to Tel Aviv to meet Israeli officials, the post was later deleted and no visit materialized. However, questions remain over how seriously his statements should be taken. While he commands Uganda's military, foreign policy decisions ultimately rest with the government led by President Museveni. For now, they underscore how individual actors, even within state structures, can inject unpredictability into an already volatile geopolitical landscape. Even as a fragile ceasefire between the United States and Iran took hold this week, a new and far more dangerous spectre has entered the conversation: a nuclear war. The warning came not from a government briefing or classified intelligence, but from a live television studio in Israel, where journalist Shimon Riklin, appearing alongside National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir on Channel 14, raised the possibility of deploying a neutron bomb against Iran.
Why aren't we using what's called an atomic neutron bomb in Iran? It's a type of atomic bomb that doesn't damage buildings. It kills people in a limited way, everywhere.
Ben-Gvir did not condemn the suggestion. He nodded, laughed, and told Riklin to keep speaking. The exchange drew immediate international attention. Within hours, claims began circulating that both China and Pakistan had privately warned Israel against any nuclear use. The claims were relayed publicly by American commentator and Young Turks co-founder Cenk Uygur, speaking on Piers Morgan Uncensored on April 8th. Neither Beijing nor Islamabad has officially confirmed any such warning, and no government statement from either country has been independently verified at the time of broadcast.
And by the way, if you haven't heard, China and Pakistan have said that if Israel nukes Iran, they will nuke Israel. So here we are on the precipice of a nuclear holocaust because this baboon is in office and he's like, oh, Bibi, how can I make you happy? Can you please give me more money? Am I going to be a hero, Bibi? I can't stand this guy. And doing the exact opposite of what he promised.
Okay.
The exact opposite. And one more thing a point that Glenn made that is really important. So Russia goes and destroys their army and their treasure in Ukraine. Now we're going to destroy our treasure. We spent $300 million on the rescue alone. It was a brilliant operation, but $300 million. We're spending $1 to $2 billion a day.
China's foreign ministry, for its part, has consistently called for restraint and a political settlement, stopping well short of any nuclear ultimatum in its public statements. What is on the record, however, is the broader context. The ceasefire between the US and Iran, brokered by Pakistan on April 8th, with just 90 minutes to spare before Trump's deadline, remains deeply unstable. Israel has said it does not consider itself bound by the agreement in Lebanon. Iran has already threatened to suspend it, and IRGC commanders, in a joint statement, warned their forces remain with hands on the trigger. Against that backdrop, a laughing minister and a journalist casually discussing atomic weapons on primetime television is not simply inflammatory. For a region already 40 days into war, it is a measure of exactly how far things have gone. The latest wave of US-Israeli strikes is pushing the Iran conflict into a far more dangerous phase, with nuclear sites now at the center of the battlefield. Iran's atomic agency has issued a defiant message. Even heavy bombs will not stop its nuclear program.
US-Israeli attack on Ardakan yellowcake plant in Yazd is a blatant violation of the immunity of peaceful nuclear facilities, targeting the reactor fuel supply chain and nuclear medicine. Iran's nuclear tech serves global peace and human health, a path heavy bombs will never halt.
But on the ground, the risks are rapidly escalating. The International Atomic Energy Agency has confirmed that recent strikes landed alarmingly close to the Bushehr nuclear power plant, the country's only operational nuclear reactor. One impact point was just around 75 meters from the facility's perimeter, though the reactor itself remains intact.
Based on its independent analysis of new satellite imagery and detailed knowledge of the site, the IAEA can confirm recent impacts of military strikes close to Iran's Bushehr nuclear power plant, including one just 75 meters from the site perimeter.
The warning from global nuclear authorities is stark. The IAEA says continued military activity near such a site poses a very real danger of a radiological disaster that could spread beyond Iran's borders. Russia, which has a long-standing involvement in the Bushehr facility, has been evacuating its personnel from the site, signaling growing alarm over the safety of the reactor and surrounding infrastructure. Iran has gone further, warning of a serious risk of radioactive contamination if strikes continue near Bushehr, raising fears of a potential environmental crisis in the Gulf region. Earlier on April 5th, Araghchi wrote to UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, condemning US-Israeli strikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure, including the Bushehr nuclear plant. Araghchi warned that strikes near Bushehr risk radioactive contamination with severe human and environmental consequences.
The strikes expose the entire region to a serious risk of radioactive contamination with serious human and environmental consequences. The repeated attacks by the aggressors in the vicinity of the active Bushehr nuclear power plant are of great concern. The proximity of these attacks to an active nuclear facility creates an intolerable situation that poses a serious risk of a radiological release.
The strikes are not isolated. In Isfahan, a key hub for Iran's nuclear and military infrastructure, recent air defense operations turned deadly. At least 4 Iranian army officers were killed while responding to incoming attacks, underscoring how deeply the conflict is penetrating sensitive strategic zones. This dual targeting of nuclear-linked regions, Bushehr in the south and Isfahan in the center, signals a shift. What began as broader military strikes is now increasingly intersecting with Iran's nuclear architecture. And yet Tehran is doubling down. Officials argue that sustained bombing cannot dismantle Iran's nuclear program, describing it as dispersed, fortified, and technologically resilient. But that raises a critical question. If strikes cannot halt the program, what is the objective of targeting areas near nuclear facilities? Critics warn the strategy risks triggering a nuclear safety crisis without delivering meaningful strategic gains. Even near misses could disrupt power systems, damage containment structures, or compromise safety mechanisms, with consequences far beyond the battlefield. The International Atomic Energy Agency has reiterated that nuclear sites must never be targeted. Yet recent strikes near Bushehr suggest that the boundary is being dangerously tested. The human toll is already evident, with a projectile near the facility killing a security staff member and damaging infrastructure. The conflict is now entering a volatile phase. Iran signals its nuclear ambitions will endure, while continued strikes heighten the risk of a catastrophic radiological incident that could reshape the region.